The conversation in today's episode is so vast and deep and complex that it almost does it a disservice to try to summarize it here in this little intro. Suffice it to say that this conversation with Curtrice Goddard is transformational, alchemical, and it's all about embodying unity, not just talking about it, thinking about it, but embodying it from every single body. And every single body has a unique experience based on a unique ancestral history, based on unique conditioning. And so it's not going to look the same for everybody, but it's an important conversation. And if you remember, Curtrice has been on the show before. She's a teacher of consciousness and cultural wellness strategist. She sits at the intersection of wellness, leadership, and collective healing. And she always has so many amazing things to share to help us transcend the game. And this conversation is powerful. So join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Soul Nectar Show. That show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is greater than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a new understanding of ourselves and what we're doing here on this blue dot floating in the sea of stars. And we all know that we are so much more vast than this human body in this particular timeline, on this particular moment in history. As I say that, interesting, that's coming through. And we are so much vaster than this, and therefore we have the capacity to change everything. But the question is, how? What is in right relationship? How do we move forward? And we know that the systems and structures that have been built by white supremacy and colonization and patriarchy, all of the words that we've come to understand over the last, since 2020, we got some big revelations and we've been watching it unfold. And all of these systems have a commonality. They're designed to exert power over nature, power over other human beings, power over others' bodies, over land, over resources. They're extraction-based, they're transactional, they're not relational. And those are all losing their footing, and they are not going quietly into that dark night. But the tide is coming in, and we stand at the water's edge watching what we built either transform or be swallowed up. And I think at this point, we all know that we need a fresh start. We can feel it. We know we need a fresh start. We need some kind of blank slate on which to architect something equitable, something alive, something worthy of the word future. And yet, if there are still traumatized roots in the soil where we intend to plant the seeds of a new beginning, then our new foundation already carries a crack of fear running through it. It already has a fault line, a fissure that we'll spend generations managing rather than moving forward in a new way. And I think that's why so many of us are standing at the threshold rather than walking through the open doorway. Because the question is, what is in right relationship? What does land back mean? What does reparations mean? What does reconciliation look like? How do we move forward together, hearing all voices and feeling every person feeling seen, heard, loved, wanted, and move forward from a healed space? And it's a big ask. It's a huge ask. So today, there's only really one person I know that can have this conversation with me that could handle the breadth and depth and the astounding complexity of this conversation. And that would be Curtrice Goddard, who is here with us. Welcome, Curtrice.
Hello, darling. Thank you for having me.
So you guys have seen Curtrice twice before on Soul Nectar Show. I'll remind you, we did Releasing the Whiteness Matrix. That was back in like 2024, I think. And then we had Enlightened Humans. That was the first interview that we did together. So we come together at these moments because we know, we feel the pulse like it's needed. And to let you know, in case you didn't see those last episodes, I will be putting links in the show notes below so you can go reference those and watch those back. because every single time we gather together, like amazing stuff happens. But Curtrice is a teacher of consciousness and cultural wellness strategist whose work sits at the intersection of wellness, leadership, and collective healing. She supports individuals, organizations, and communities in moving from survival to sovereignty, from separation to repair. And her practice includes coaching and mentorship, sacred guidance, all rooted in the transmission of consciousness as the foundational tool for transformation. So has over 16 years of training in holistic medicine, energy medicine, spiritual development. She's held space for Black women leaders, white spiritual leaders, organizations navigating deep cultural change. She's the founder of Transcend the Game and is currently building an institute to house her body of work in wellness called Inner Wealth Leadership and Sacred Activism. And so grateful to have you and your blessed soul and all its divine wisdom here with us today. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you. I am in the brinking on an reemergence into the collective field after a lot of reflection over where we are right now on the planet, right? The consciousness on the planet. Wanting to take a step back to make sure when I move and share transmissions that they are a catalyst for shift as opposed to just responding to things or think pieces. I'm like, how? I need to really sit back and be very rooted in the how, right? How do we move forward instead of just kind of, I don't know, just feel like it's been a very debate-heavy space, very intellectual, and just with my own work that it requires some deep reflection and alignment to be very intentional with this work. So thank you for having me at this time. You're the first person I've spoken to, actually. So it's wonderful.
Feel honored. I feel honored.
Yes.
And everybody listening feels honored because they know we're a community of beings that understand this conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as you were starting to show, something that's so powerful was just illuminated, and it's come in my meditations as well when we talk about repair, reparations, equity, land back. I feel like there's a huge, humongous step that we have overlooked, and that is the healing for people in white bodies. It is, here's the awareness, here's the information, here's the truth. Now jump over all this and repair, give back, get active. But this space, that middle, that healing space for people in white bodies to actually explore, to even be able to see the distortion, the dysfunction that is in whiteness as a result of supremacy, to really explore that and sit in that, that hasn't happened. So you have people who intellectually know a thing now and who intellectually want to give back, and even compassionately. But there's no real excavation and exploration or even safe spaces for that work. If we were doing this work as a collective, you would see racial healing centers on every corner in every suburb if we were really doing the work. That is what I consider being met, not, hey guys, this is what history we thought it was, this is what it really is, here's what's at play. We see the remnants in our collective field, we see it playing out in the world, now let's fix it. And so when you look at Black and brown people, Indigenous people, we are, over the last 5-6 years, have been in healing. There's more, like even in the Black community, I remember I used to always say, oh, I just want the healing work and the sound bowls and the trauma release. And now it's arriving. It's like flowers coming out of the ground. Like this is becoming part of culture now. Transformative spaces, healing justice. Again, what about the people in white bodies? Where's their work? And I think the big piece in that is a lot of more active people in white bodies who are like activists. They are doing their work with Black and brown people, again, skipping their healing or the real looking, because when I look onto, I won't say whiteness because that's a value system, but white people or the community, I see a lot of distortion that people don't see because of the narrative, because of the system we were born into is set up for you not to see, right? So you don't see. And I'm like, there's a lot of healing that really needs to happen there. And that's where my work is moving into as we talk about embodied unity. And I was telling you about my flagship course. There's a deep, like, I don't know, almost 7 months of white people doing deep deep healing work, not just getting information, moving through triggers, but really starting to look at their community different and how it looks if we were really doing racial healing work. What does that look like in everyday life? Right now, it's still very hidden. It's just some of us on this pocket. But the real teaching would not be to come over and assist me as much as it is assist your own people. That's just not happening. So that's a big piece that I haven't heard anyone really speak about. And I want to share this, Carrie, because this is interesting. A sister, a woman in a white body who is super in the activism space on Palestine, on everything. She's a truth teller, very active, very strong and unapologetic in her delivery. She has an institute. And she stole a workbook from an African queer woman course. She took the workbook that she paid for. She paid to get into this course. And the workbook was there. No, you had to pay to get the workbook. And then she uploaded it to her school and told everybody that she was the Black woman, the African woman was her mentor. And they had access to this paid product. So someone inside the school seen it. And she, seen it and went and told the African woman. So now they're emailing, that's for purchase. You're taking my work and you're sharing it. So that was huge, right? And I actually teared up around it. And I was like, why am I responding like that? Because all I see is unexplored whiteness co-opting very unconsciously. It was a conscious choice to say, oh, this was my mentor, which isn't true. And here's this thing, you can use it without going through the proper channels and honoring the work and coming back. And so we're talking about healing and community and how we need to be in this space. And it just hurt me because I was like, I just see so much that's unexplored here. And although she's doing this work and we're all like in this ecosystem together, if she isn't doing a depth of her own work, this is what makes these spaces feel untrustworthy. Like you can't really trust. You want to have circles together, but can you really? And I think I cried because she looks like my friends. She's talked like my friends. Yeah, I can feel emotional now. And no one is really stepping into the work. And so the unity work isn't, for me, it isn't at this point in time with everything that's coming up in the world, this deep internal work and looking at whiteness collectively, like me, holding space. I'm holding space with white women, like looking at whiteness together, looking at the patriarchy together, but knowing our roles in that, but being it doesn't mean we don't necessarily have to separate in that way, but we're really needing to look at it collectively and knowing that right now we need to look at the healing for people in white bodies. We must. They need the attention that has been given to the people in brown and Black bodies. And I'm going to die on that hill.
Yeah. Well, I'll corroborate what you're saying. And I'll say this is a very complex thing. So what I want to say is that many white-bodied people lost their roots in the colonization and the creation of this false idea of white supremacy. Like this mental categorization of people by the color of their skin or where their ancestors. We lost our connection to our ancestors through the system of religion because the primary religion associated with this is Christianity. And Christianity said it's evil to talk to your ancestors beyond the veil. It's evil to talk to spirits. It's evil to commune with anything outside of a church and your pastor and your priest. And so there was like this entire disempowerment and disembodiment from our ancestors that live in our bodies and our DNA and all of the ancestral experiences, right? And then there was the demonification of women's intuition on top of that.
Absolutely.
And the witch hunts to reinforce the point that if you go against this white supremacy model, you will be burned at the stake, drowned in a river, killed for disobeying your master. So when you talk about the most horrific situation possible is to be in the bed of the one that's in control of everything and to know that he is not aware of his impact, or if he is, he doesn't care. That's like the construct, right? I mean, you talk about plantations. the guy's in charge. Everything is handed down through the men, and the women are just supposed to just keep quiet about it and just look pretty and pleasing and polite. And this is the hardest thing for white-bodied women to do, is to speak up their truth.
Yes.
It's like one thing I work with women on is speaking their truth, standing in their truth, speaking their truth, and reconnecting with their bodies, which they've been disembodied from, right? Because it's too painful to deal with the rape and the torture and all of the things, right? My cat is like super concerned for me right now.
I love that.
But it's so hard to face your body and what you had to overlook to stay belonging with the matrix, even with your own kids, even with your children. So there's this call back to the earth. And what does the call back to the earth look like? How do you find your way home to the earth without help from those who never lost connection to it? And that's the place that I sit. And so my ancestors, my one little tiny seed of a branch of ancestry that was Cherokee. And even as I say that, there's indigenous people listening to this going, pretendian, you're not Cherokee. You don't look Cherokee. You don't have any proof. Actually, I do. I got a DNA test and I do have proof. And I got that because of the pretendian conversation. Because somehow I have to justify my ancestry that I'm connected to a people that I feel in my heart and have past lives remembering. So there's so much hate here. I was guided to South America. I'll just complete by saying I was guided to South America to study with the Caro people because they never forgot that they're star people. They always got connected with their land. They've never been separated from their land. They've never been separated from their customs, their language, their ancestors. So they remember who they are. They're way more forgiving. And in the United States, I feel like I would not have gotten that same grace to be the person I'm meant to be, which is a guide of this medicine to come back home. So there's so much here, like you can tell, like,
I want to hold that.
But I'm also angry. I have sacred rage too.
Yes. And holding that in the field, because this is the conversation, right? There's a lot going on in that.
Right.
Because I have Indian blood too, like Native, I know, but unlike you, I don't really present that. That's something that's going on as you process this white body and being of the consciousness that you are in this world. Like you're trying to make sense of it all, right? Because you know we're more than our bodies, but then you're in a body and you want to be connected. But I think what I am saying, and this is why it's pivotal, why I started with when I say the healing for white people, I'm not talking about what we've seen. I'm not talking about going to a class so you learn about Emmett Till and all that's foundational. I'm talking about real healing. I'm talking about real compassionate holding, screaming, like actually around racism, because this is where nobody wants to touch this. If you still see, they rather talk about the patriarchy. So you know that there's something there. And because that hasn't happened, okay, so I'm a holistic wellness practitioner. I have my certain beliefs of my 10 commandments about don't eat Jell-O or whatever it is, right? That was for me, and then the wellness community. And then there was a time where the shift became more global and mainstream, meaning everybody now has some awareness. You can go to Kentucky Fried Chicken and find vegan food. That's when we know we've made a shift. In this conversation, and this is speaking back to what you're saying, that shift hasn't happened. So there's still contention, anger, and rage, because when you look out, we're not seeing enough of a shift from people in white bodies in terms of speaking and being in right relations and speaking to their own communities and really doing the work, that it feels okay for you to come in and sit in. And I felt this in my own body as a woman, just with context. I always tease, I have 1.5 million friends that are white. And I always, I feel like I do. I'm in a heavy white world and have not only that, there's people in white bodies who are my beloveds, like deep soul sisters that I've been on deep journeys with. Okay. And when I hear people use African-American vernacular, which they call Gen Z now, or they're, a lady was doing an energy reading. She was like, okay, dog, and saying all these things that I remember from Detroit and from home. I don't like it. I don't like it. Everybody wants to be together, but because the work isn't being done, it feels like a taking. Because my memory, my cellular memory remembers a taking, but it does not know repair. It doesn't know what that looks like. And so that's why when you say you're Cherokee, you want to sit with these, it's like, we all want to get there. But I was like, this is, like you're so timely because there is this big piece of healing and this shift that needs to happen where when you think of white people, white community, or even whiteness, you think of this as the community that is in reforming. And that's not where it is. So those who are our friends, those who are in our conscious communities, yeah, you want to go around the lake and play. I've been invited to things. I'm like, I don't really feel like sitting in front of white spiritual leaders right now. How can you lead me? And not because I'm a Black woman. Let's get clear on that. Because of the level, the spiritualist that I am. Because I don't play. And all my friends know that even before the conversation was around racism, because I didn't come into this conversation until like 2020. I've never played. I'm honest in my walk. I hold myself to these standards of walking softly on the earth means being in full integrity, being accountable. These were the things before this conversation. I'm the friend that they call intense. Why? Because
right.
You're saying...
I get called that too.
I know you do. So I want to hear your space on that. The shift hasn't happened. The work isn't being done. Like it's still, when you look out at the world, I don't see the shift. You just see the women like yourself in this small pocket.
And it's a small pocket, but it's a potent pocket. So I will say that. It's small, but potent. Mm-hmm. So what's happening in inner medicine community is this conversation has come up. I don't put this conversation aside. People have said, and even my beloved students who are African American, they say, not sure if it's in right relationship for me to be a medicine woman. I don't know if it's right relationship for me to be in this lineage. And how can you help me with that? So we've had deep, deep conversations about that, right? And so I've taken steps to, for example, bring our medicine people from Peru directly with our students so that they can feel their hearts, see their intentions, be in ceremony with them so that they know, yes, we are adopting all of you stepchildren. You are lost. You don't know where you're going right now, right? We got disconnected from our ancestry, disconnected from our sacred traditions to get connected with the earth. We lost all that. We lost our cultures. We lost our ancestors. We lost it all in this whiteness thing. And so they are holding a huge space. And I'm so grateful to our Caro Nation. I mean, they are holding such a huge space for our community to help us to build our mesa in their tradition. They say it's okay. You can build your mesa however you want. And as we are all building our mesas, they're holding space for us. But what's happened for each person is that they're stepping into their own inner medicine. They're stepping in to their connection with their ancestry. They have an ancestral altar. They're reopening that door to connect and to feel all of these difficult topics. We talk about all of these difficult topics in our class. I don't shy away from any topics. You have to work it out by having the conversation, because the conversation is vibrational. It's coming through your voice, but it's activating your cells. It's activating your DNA. It's activating your ancestry. And therefore, it's a community when we have these conversations. There's like a listening of all the ancestors that's happening in the conversation. There's a transmutation and alchemy. Like even right now, you and I know you're feeling it. Like there's times when there's just like really stinky energy coming up and it's like, oh, there's a lot of reaction to that statement. Or no, you can't do that. And so there's almost like we're tracking the energy, and that is medicine. That is being a medicine woman. And every single tradition around the entire world had medicine women. And so did our ancestry before they got burned at the stake. So there's so much healing happening right now, but only if we give ourselves to the process. And so to your point, a lot of people that are inviting you to the fun time by the lake, these are spiritual bypassing. They're like, I want to go with Eagle and I want to fly high above all this human drama shit. And I want to hang out way up here. And I don't want to face all that icky stuff. I just want to fly with eagle and maintain the frequency. And then I think I'm doing my job. And maybe, who knows, in the cosmic setup, in the great plan, who am I to argue with what somebody is saying that they're here to do? But what the missed opportunity is to realize that this was never a ladder. Because that's also a ladder, right? It's like a ladder to the higher spirituality.
Yeah.
You just keep climbing a ladder. And so it's white supremacy as a ladder spiritually. And I can just climb and I can just stay at the top of the ladder and I can be supreme. And the indigenous people teach us it's a wheel. It's a medicine wheel.
Yeah.
And all parts are included in the medicine wheel. And when we go to the medicine wheel, we've got the body in the south. We've got the emotions in the west. We've got the soul in the north. We have great spirit in the east. It's all equal. It's not better to be an eagle than it is to be in serpent. It's not better to be in jaguar than it is to be in hummingbird. It's all equal. And I think that's the piece that so many white-bodied people are missing, is they're bypassing the totality of their human experience because it's painful.
Because of that. And when you, even in your personal experience, like you said, you feel rage too, and, like inviting you into saying like, well, this is my experience. But when you step back and look at the collective, it could be understandable why people feel that way, because the bypassers are in large, vast amounts. And so just to have that type of empathy of, and when you even think when you were talking, what's really coming up too around supremacy is, as human beings, as just being born here, I feel our journey is to reclaim our sovereignty. And that the biggest nugget in this is scarcity. It is, like you said, like laying next to the man who's in charge of everything. All these conversations, patriarchal, racism, they come to ask us, do we think we can survive without the management of this external world? Do I have to sell my soul to eat? It's all about eating bread. That's why everybody ignores the racial conversation, because they want to eat. That's it. And that's like a very low form, especially for evolved beings. And so I still have fear around scarcity. Things come up in me in my life and I say, this is the same entity or energy that is ruling the world. Why am I silent? So that I can eat, so that I can survive. I don't know if I can survive. I taught a class and a woman in Germany said, I don't want you to have equal rights. I don't want you to take from me. I think she was the most liberating woman that's ever said in my class. I told her, I said, I will protect you in this space because of your honesty, because I feel that in the pit of my stomach anyway. But her truth, for her to say that, lets you know that she knows that's not aligned with her soul. But she's like, this is what my fear says. And that's the real conversation. And even with the bypassers, I'm not giving a pass to everybody's on their own journey. Yeah, I get the rhetoric. I get it. And I believe it. But I'm going to stand, and I have to us asking ourselves, am I in full integrity with my spiritual walk? Take whiteness, blackness, indigenous, take it, all of that out. As a spiritual being walking through this world, am I in full integrity in my life? Am I in a deep honesty with humanity? That is our sacred honor and responsibility. And that's what this conversation is. And it's not really about helping other people. It's about reclaiming ourselves from this system.
I so agree with you. And when you were speaking, what was coming to me is the Andean premise of Aini, right relationship, reciprocity, a give and receive, today me, tomorrow you. And that has been such a powerful rewiring for me, because the longer I stay in this lineage and the guides are always helping me, the more I see those sneaky little places where I learned to manipulate things to get what I wanted, especially with white women. It's like, it's not always direct. It's often so indirect that we have a hard time seeing it ourselves, because we hide it from ourselves, because we want to be the good girl and we want to be the chosen one. And when you're fully immersed in the matrix, you're daddy's girl. And so I think that's, when I look out and I see that why are so many women supporting somebody who's obviously committed great harm against little girls, I've got to see that part. It's because depending on your level of consciousness, you're either able to see that or not see that.
Right.
And this is why all of the accusations are correct, that in the 60s and the movements of women's liberation, white women were not there to support Black women en masse. They're angling. They're like seeing like, how can I keep my position while I give some lip service, or I feel good about my contribution over here, but like I'm also defending my territory for my own family or whatever is going on, right? Or I'm defending my position in the hierarchy. But so you have to kind of let all of that go in order to show up, as you're talking about, as a spiritually integrous person. There's been...
And how do we hold space for each other in doing that? That's really what I keep coming back to, the healing. I'm saying it's deeper to even allow, even when white people take classes or learn new information around supremacy, there's such a destabilization that deserves more care to me. There should be initiatives, in my opinion, that is focused on the real disorienting nature of this work and what it requires and the years that it may require, so that we can actually move into unity. Because how do we unify if you still have some of these programs that manifest as you walking through the world, like you said, with lip service? It is felt for some of us to like, you're really kind and we're maybe into the same things, but there's a rawness and a truth that you're not walking in that will permit from us really being an authentic relationship. And I want to create more spaces and conversations that are looking at the white race with compassion, and also creating containers that there is this deep work. So when you say I'm Cherokee and when you say I'm playing this drum, we're all like in a hallelujah, but we're still in a, because, whoa, I remember a taking. It's like coming back to Detroit and seeing all the white people in Detroit, or coming back to the neighborhood and seeing them in the neighborhood and feeling like a real literal. Then when you talk to them, you're like, oh, part of my new best friend. But the point is, that's the individual, but that cellular experience and that dynamic. And how do you shift the dynamic if we're not honest and like holding hands and saying like, I see you here. It feels uncomfortable for me. I don't want to harm you, but I need to tell you my truth. And only there can we break bread and build.
And the fact of the matter is that truth that you're talking about, yes, there's cellular memory for every single one of us, no matter what body you're in. And it's the cellular memory of your ancestors and what they went through as part of this crazy scheme that we've been exploring, for a couple thousand years. It's an individual sovereignty. This is another thing about the supremacy mindset, is that it teaches you to classify and put people into buckets. You're like putting everybody in a bucket so you can simplify your understanding of things, but it's not accurate. So that has to all go, which means automatically it's going to get overwhelmingly complex, because now there's 8 billion sovereign people with different perspectives. Instead of there's this bucket of these people, this bucket of these people, and this bucket of these people. So we're moving into a distributed understanding of things. And that is, I think, really hard for people who have been programmed to have a 30-second attention span, or I think now it's down to 10 seconds. Like I watch my TikTok and it's 10 seconds. And if you don't capture them in 10 seconds, they're out of here.
Wow.
This is going to require depth. I mean, we're going to have to deep dive and we're going to have to slow it down. It can't be so fast.
Yeah.
Which is why we're standing at the threshold. Because those of us who understand, we're like, oh no, how could we begin in truth, new earth, without some exploration deeper of the cracks in our foundation? Whenever you start something new, you want to build it with a strong foundation. That is the most important piece, is the foundation. We're not even at the foundation yet. We're still digging out roots out of the soil. We're not there.
Right.
We want to be there. We'd like to get on to the, glory years, but like that's not happening yet because we still have these deep traumatic roots. And like you said, it's all of us really, but depending on who committed themselves to the work is a little bit further along.
And I'm curious, I had this thought earlier with the cellular memory, just in the dynamics of the taking or the entering the spaces or the culture or whatever that is. What could the cellular remembrance be in a person in a white body? what would that look like?
I love that you asked that question because I had the thought earlier that I wanted to get around to that, and now you're saying it. So my mom is writing this genealogy book. Okay, so my mom has been working on genealogy for our family for like 20 years, and she got all of the timelines and everybody listed and did all that like years ago. Now she's putting it into a story format. So she's like looking at the time that they were living in this town and what was it like there, looking through the records, seeing how they might have been thinking, because we don't know what they thought because they didn't write that down. And then some of our ancestors were part of a town where the entire town voted yes to being part of the Confederacy. Well, that means that part of my ancestry was like willing to tear everything down in order to keep enslavement active. That is something in my DNA. Okay, that's part of my DNA. And so when I started looking at, and then I started looking at my natural father's DNA and tracking all that, and I'm seeing like all this Scottish, like I track it all the way back to Scotland now, like 1600s. And then how many of my ancestral lines came into the United States in time to be a DA and for me to be a daughter of the American Revolution. That means that they've been here for that long. So when I start looking at all of this, what happens for me is I feel activated in my ancestral body, this remembrance of these people. And I even ordered like a Celtic cross for myself. And I'm not a Christian. I do not. Jesus follower, yes. Christian, no. But this Celtic cross, I was like, which one is most aligned with what my ancestors would have wanted before this whole Roman occupation stuff came along? I want to know like what that would have been, because I want to connect with that. And I'm having a conversation with somebody from Ireland who goes into the depth of these sacred spaces in Ireland where there's still beings of light that move beyond the liminal spaces. And so I'm feeling a calling to return to that land where my body, my ancestors were from. But so this brings up like...
Before the indoctrination.
Before the indoctrination. Because I love my ancestors, my grandmother, my grandfather, all the ones that were part of this whole colonization thing. Other thing is like, you're expected, I think, the white person thinks that what Black and brown people want is that you want us to hate our ancestors. And I'm not going to hate my grandma. I'm not going to hate because they did horrendous things, and maybe they didn't specifically, but somebody did, obviously. I had people fighting for the Confederacy, you know? I had people part of that. I had one person was listed plantation owner, you know? So I have that in my ancestry. I don't know that person specifically, but I know it's in my DNA. And when I talk about it, I feel their feelings, you know, it comes through my DNA. And there's a lot of defensiveness, honestly. It's like, for example, if I go up my mom's tree, they were migrant farm workers. They didn't have anything. They were working the land with 13 kids. And so when I tap into them with this conversation, they get outraged. They're like,
They can still have racism, though, even with not a dime, because I know them.
They're like, as if we had privilege. We were barely
But you do have privilege.
starving, you know?
But you do have privilege, Carrie. You know that.
I do, completely.
No, I'm saying like economically poor white people are some of the most racist people on the planet. You don't know that? I know them. How do you not know them?
I'm actually surprisingly not in contact with a lot of that.
I've had friends. I've been in trailer. I mean,
I know it exists. I know it exists. The last contact I had with it was actually high school. High school was my last contact with it, because after high school, I went to a really nice college and I didn't have that around me anymore. And what happened in high school, and I think I told you this, but my first boyfriend was African-American. I was like a freshman in high school. He asked me to date him and I was like, okay, because you're hot. You know, I mean, I wasn't thinking about that. And then I found out that that was not liked by the town. Like I was ostracized, I was attacked, I was shamed.
So there again, that is economically poor people that are racist, right?
So that town is very poor. It still is kind of economically disadvantaged, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised to hear you say that. I don't know. I don't have the conversation about hating ancestors, but I do know that anybody who's doing any harm is doing harm, you know, whether that's my grandfather or yours. You know what I'm saying? What you allow, or you don't speak to, that's something separate. But I don't think that is I've never heard that as a call, but I think it is in asking white people to speak truth. And not everybody does that. Even if it's not towards Black or brown people, I know people in white families who have been harmed by people in their family who also keeps that within them. I had a sister I was talking to who told me one of the, somebody in our community sexually violated her in a way. I was so surprised because she's still with him a lot, like as friends. And I was like, okay, why did you accept, but it was more to it. It's more to it than that. But that's not my response to that. And I was like, you don't have to be friends with him, and you can, but you should also let him know how uncomfortable he's like almost 20 years older than you. So in that, right, I think sometimes in this conversation, right, relations or being in truth or calling people into accountability. And I feel like that's a program of whiteness, and why there's so much silence is because any type of calling out something, illuminate something feels like an attack. For them to say something to their father or their grandfather, instead they cannot, right? It can't be, I love you, and it has to be, this is a bad thing that's happening because I'm speaking up.
I think what happened for me in my family system, I mean, I definitely had people outside my family system when I was dating this really hot guy. I had a lot of people telling me that I should be ashamed of myself outside my family system. Inside my family system, I think my mom might have been running a lot of interference for me because I never had my grandmother or my grandfather or anybody say anything to me. But I think my mom was probably running some interference for me. Yeah. But we visited Midwest Texas. We visited their little town. And I noticed my throat is getting, it's got some stuff. Yeah. But we visited their town, and I told the preacher's daughter that I was dating a Black guy. And boy, apparently that blew up in the town. And my grandmother never said anything to me directly about it. But apparently that had a lot of consequences for her living in the town.
Wow.
So I didn't actually have anybody say anything to me or in front of me. And so that's what I'm telling you. I think for whatever reason, I don't have people say racist crap in front of me.
What does it matter about the front?
Maybe. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't say it in front of me, so I can't call it out because you're not saying it.
I'm not even, okay, I think we might get lost on that. I'm just saying that when you talk about sovereign, to us as human beings, to be sovereign when you're born in a system and the system tells you this is how things go, for someone to actually speak and say something or do something outside of the norm is scary for people. So whether it is, uncle or somebody did something, people don't say it because that's not what's happening here. And that, when you look at the narratives, when you look at the white people, the white community, it's full of a disillusioned narrative that has been created. There's a lot of pain behind it. Now, I get to speak into this because I live it, because I've gone through the back door. So I always say, when white people kind of move into a space of who wasn't racist, I'm like, I'm in these communities or dating people or having good friends in every socioeconomic background of people in white bodies. And there is racism in their families. They tell me, or I've had people say, you can't go here. I've been with a guy and he's like, this is a skinhead. So I'm aware of all this. I don't know how you guys aren't, right? And the bigger thing is for all of us born into this system, Black and brown and indigenous people included, we all have been indoctrinated towards a racist system, the internal racism, the separation consciousness of other brown people, all those things. So I think we can all assume that it's in our lineages, that it's in our bodies, or that this is the work we are honored to walk into, and we don't have to go through the blame game. Because why? Right? We just need to know it is there. We don't need to know how great Uncle Fester was, because it's saturated in a system. How it was.
I mean,
right. And this system, the system is a capitalist system that demands that there's somebody on the bottom. Narratives were created. History was erased. A lot of things aren't shown. So it takes somebody to be on the background to really know all the drugs, all the violence that's in whiteness, that's in that community and culture, because the world won't show you that. And it takes somebody to live the experience to know that not everybody Black are on drugs or on the government assistance, that they're scholars and pastors and all type of academics, right? And myself, right? So it takes that because of the system. So I think the bigger conversation is that we come into it from a collective mind of we've all been indoctrinated. And if we are aware, going to say we're conscious people walking on the earth, then it should just be a sacred limb in all of our work. There's no reason for it to not be on the forefront. We should be just as brazen as the pedophilia and all the other things and the capitalism and the wars and all these other things that are so blatant. And we're still back here wanting to separate ourselves from the ugliness instead of being the warriors we are and getting here and start cutting down all these roots, right?
Yeah. And you're right. Like, as you were talking, I was like reflecting on what you're saying. I think what you're saying. And there is this layer of not seeing. And
I want to really hear that because that's important.
I mean, and I've always had this feeling of why aren't people being honest? Because then when, let's say, it's exposed for a moment and then I finally do see, and then I say something about it, I'm like disillusioned that the person is like that I didn't see it up front, or that they hid it from me so that I couldn't see it and pretended to be something they weren't. And there's a deep betrayal in that, pretending to be something you're not. And so I do that feeling sense of like, whenever this stuff opens up, I have been so disillusioned. And I remember the first time it opened up, I was just a little kid. And we were teasing our friend. There was a group of us, and we were teasing a friend who was African-American. Just kid teasing, stupid stuff. But it opened up this whole pustule of racism, like the pocket opened up, and I had never felt that before. I was in second grade. I was like, oh, like what just happened?
And what's laying in here that we're not even aware of, right?
And I've never forgotten that moment, because it was this moment we were just all playing like da 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 da, and then this thing opened up, and I could feel it through my whole, viscerally through my whole body. And I was asking them, what is that? That's not right, what we just did. Something is really wrong. And I don't remember how it ended, but I think it was kind of like, oh, she's okay with it. It's not a big deal. And I was like, no, I think it is. And I still chewed on that thing like all this time.
Wow. In second grade.
That same experience has been happening for me over and over again. I assumed that since I was in New England, that thing wasn't there because they fought against it. And then to see it open up was like, well, you're calling me what? All of a sudden, and I have shame all over my whole body because I love someone that's not approved for me to love. What? And just feeling like the labels and how they sink into your body, and like a target on your back. You know, like I should be ashamed of myself for not realizing that. That was one of the hardest times in high school. So I think by the time I met Akeem, I'd been through this whole journey of unpacking all the different facets of my fascination with going outside, like challenging I want to challenge it. When anybody tells me I can't do something, I'm immediately going to want to do it anyway, just to show you I can, to confront this, especially if you shame me for something, I'm definitely going to confront it.
And kind of reclaiming your freedom, right?
Yeah. It took me a while to unpack. And I think I told you this on a previous episode or some other conversations, but like I went through many iterations of exploring my inner dialogue or my real deep inner truth around why I was so attracted to Black-bodied men.
I think you did share something with me.
And it's not all pretty. Some of it is racial politics. It's like, I'm going to use this person because it'll really F with my person, it'll hurt him because it's one thing he can't be, right? I mean, I played a lot of race politics, and it wasn't until I finally rested and then Spirit brought Akeem into my life that it's like, now I have a real partner that can see me for me and I can see him for him, aside from our color, but also including it. It's not disincluding it. I think you know what I mean, but it's like the souls that come together to do the sacred work. And we can also be present. I can be present with his experience, and I've seen things through his eyes, and in his presence, I'm able to detect like, this is not a safe place for us. And I've said that to him. We've been on some backcountry road in Arkansas somewhere. And I'm like, this is not a safe place for us. We need to immediately get out of here. And my whole body is lit up with fear because why? Because my husband is in danger. I'm in danger. We're in danger. And my ancestors just know I don't need anybody to tell me that. My body's telling me. So
can you connect that experience to pretending? Can you connect how that unconscious energy is still so rampant on the planet and maybe coming into other people's lives more prevalently? And you don't deserve any harm or any way, but to have a understanding that that's still the reality that a lot of people live in, that there are moments that, like even me being here instead of in Topanga, being in Detroit, there's a lot that I wasn't experiencing there. A lot of, in a place with a high Black population. And so there's some interesting dynamics here. And it has really activated me in ways that Ojai did not. Not that it's different. So I just wanted to share that just so that you can remember, because in your own experience, you're probably not thinking like, why are these people still in this place? How do we move over here? But there's so much in that. And you share such a powerful thing about in second grade, because we see this happening in the world on a larger scale, which is why I know there'll be more than spiritual leaders watching this, but anybody that's in the healing and sacred service field, it is our responsibility to do the work and make it accessible and transparent. Because that, like you said, we were teasing and it opened up into something else. And then we see how we'll just go along, not talk about it, and then boom, something happens. All this racism comes out of everybody's cells, comes out of everything. And then we got this big fire and we're But if we, as conscious beings, if we were being preventative, like as a wellness practitioner, let's stop doing the thing before we get the diagnoses. Let's make this a part of our life. Let us be the ones when we have tea, we talk about racism. Why? Because we're all born here as innocent babies into a system that was already created and we were indoctrinated. And now we're doing the work. We're moving through any shame. We're not letting anybody damn us or put us to the side. We're standing in it. We're not making excuses. That's how we become sovereign for real in a system. But long as we're defending and back here and they and all this and that, like, how about all? How about all? And then what's your role in this? What's your path, right?
Yeah.
Because we've all been touched. Unless you've been living in a forest, you have racial programming.
But I think that from my feeling is from the white body, you're not going to see it until you care about someone in brown or Black skin. You're just not going to see it. So many people I know are isolated, right? Like everybody they know around them is white. And until you actually care about someone, you love somebody who is experiencing something outside of your vision as a person of privilege, right? You're not seeing it because it doesn't happen to you. Until you love somebody, you're not going to see it, feel it, perceive it because they're not your family.
It's harming you. But it's harming white people. Supremacy has weakened the white race. It is a weak race, so weak that you must go outside of yourself to manipulate an outside world. Right now, there are 600,000 Black women terminated from their jobs because the white race is weak. Because that is how whiteness thinks. And why are you weak? Because you never have to go in and cultivate and develop yourself. So you want to go and learn from other people because it's not coming from within, because the system says, we'll fix it for you out there. Why are your kids on drugs when they have privilege, when they have money for schools? Why are they in mental institutions? Why is there so much pedophilia? Why are the white men killing their wives? Just think about the difference in our crimes. Why is there a premeditated putting my wife into a dumpster tomorrow as opposed to a drug sale going bad and gang violence in the neighborhood? This is what supremacy has done to the humans through these narratives. It will always be, and when you look at this new administration, all I see is weakness. I see what a bully does when he has no power, right? The emperor has no clothes. There's no wizard behind the curtain. And you're weakening a race. You're not allowing them to develop and become and to find things that have resilience and endurance and connection, because you keep moving things out there to keep everybody comfortable and they think that this is the reality. So I see supremacy as an enemy to people in white bodies, as it is to all. That's the new conversation. That is the wave, the shadow walk to unity. My loves must move through this part to meet us there. And we come in as we can, whether there's through ceremony or teaching or sharing, but only when we're being met and being met as a collective, not because you're bad, not because you get, no, none of that, because we're done with it. We're done as a collective. We're done. We're not playing your game. We know we're going to eat even if we share. I know that I know who I am, even if you're not below me. I don't need someone to be under me for me to feel relevant. That is the biggest foundation or pillar in sovereignty. Being able to truly collaborate, to see another beautiful woman or man or a multimillionaire or a billionaire and say, I see me. You should be able to do that. But supremacy, no. We need the very existence of whiteness is that there's something beneath you. And it's a lie, because you are coming up against the primordial people on the earth and the jig is up. People know this now. And so it's not the separation consciousness. They have weaponized it so deeply that we really think that we're against each other. Supremacy must go. It is showing up because it wants to be confronted. It wants to be dissolved, transmuted, and turned into something new. The new earth is going to come through our mouths and our hands and through this land. It cannot just stay in the 5D. But this is it. It is our time to take back our earth, our relationships. And it's not even, I don't even like white people doing the work. It just comes through as healing, as moving, as they do. It's not even for us. It's for you. I think about all my sisters and how they don't use their voice and how much they let go. They bypass. They don't only bypass on race, they bypass in their own lives. So you are reclaiming yourself. You deserve. How many of them aren't speaking their truth? But racism and the patriarchy, those are doors to you becoming an empowered woman in your body, to you being sovereign. They trick you and make you think it's about doing something for Indigenous people. That's what comes as a result of you feeling whole. It's the work we are honored to do. We get to do this. Never look at me as a Black woman, because there's millions of Black women who wouldn't touch this conversation, who has good jobs and have a husband and a house, and they don't ever want to hear this. This is a choice. This is a sacred choice. And a lot of times I'm like, okay, we'll just let everybody. But my consciousness, Spirit always says you are there for humanity, not for only people in Black bodies. You are there for everyone on that planet. That's why you came.
Yeah, I get the same messages. And
you do?
Yeah, you're here for everybody.
That was a lot.
There's some I don't want to be here for, but yes. Thank you. No, that was so powerful, Curtrice. I'm still digesting everything you just said. And one thing I'm really grateful for is that when my experience of the shamanic initiations, which are all about getting back in the body and back connected to the earth, is that, yes, I have had to face very challenging situations inside of myself and create boundaries, which I don't think I had any before. And so now it's like when you can actually have a boundary and know what you stand for and know who you are on the inside and have an inner compass, and you can stand in that strong place of knowing, yes, my arms around it all. I have ancestors that did this. I have ancestors that did that. And this is my choice in the middle of all that. When you can actually hold it all and admit it all and embrace it all, now you're a real person. You're actually standing feet on the ground. You're not like a ghost in the machine. You're actually a person that's saying, I'm going to stand here, even if it means that I don't have as much money in my bank account, or my kid stopped talking to me because he thinks I'm so weird. Well, I mean, had all these things happen, right? Where I have consequences because I'm choosing to be real. It's a consequence to choose to date somebody I love just because I fucking want to, and I don't care what you think. And I'm going to do it anyway. And I do care what you think because I'm fucking sensitive and it bothers me, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. And I'm going to marry the man I want to marry. And I don't really care what all these people around me in Texas think about it.
Yeah.
And F you.
Yeah.
And I feel the same about my path. I'm going to follow my soul on this golden path. And I'm sorry if it hurts anybody's feelings, but I'm not going to change because I'm going to do what my soul is guiding me to do.
With your soul.
Full stop.
Yes.
And I'm here to create earth keepers. I'm here to create medicine people. That's what I'm here to do. And I understand that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And I understand why.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to do it. And I feel like that is also medicine for embodied union.
Yes.
Because I'm doing what my soul is calling me to do. My ancestors tell me, keep doing it. Don't stop.
Right.
And I check in with them all the time because I second guess myself constantly. Every day, at least. Akim's like, how many times are you going to ask if you're making the right choice?
Yeah.
I don't want to offend people. That's the one thing I don't want to do. But oftentimes I've found that like a lot of the work that I do offends people. And I just have to keep doing it anyway. And maybe it's part of the medicine for them. I don't know. But
it is. And think about you.
Supposed to do.
But look at you in a white body choosing sovereignty. And that's very anti the program. And so that is powerful work. You're an activator and you are not doing it to wake people up. You are trying to have a life experience where you are in alignment with your own soul. And I respect that. I honor that. And I relate to it as well. That's why we've all connected, right? We're the ones who kind of went rogue according
we decided to be the
system.
weirdos outside the system.
Right. And
everyone's like, what are they doing?
Right. And it's so easy to just numb out or turn off. And we desire that level of freedom in this life experience. We don't want anyone taking our power and our power to choose and to be and to exist. And that's really what that is. And so, I see you. I see you in that and I honor it and I reflect it. And it is really powerful for anyone to move through that. And I think even more so in certain ways is different because the Black community has its own beliefs culturally that, really go against just by existing. And so it is for whiteness as well. This is the way we do things. Carrie, why are you over there talking like that? Why are you choosing that? Why are you? And so, like you say, it's not about anybody else or even offending people. Is being aligned with your soul because it's so painful when you're not.
Exactly. And I experienced a period of not being aligned with my soul and doing it the Matrix way. And I wanted to die. I had so much suicidal ideation. It was crazy. So we have to follow our hearts. We have to follow our souls. And we do with as much reverence and respect as possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not going to hold me back from doing my mandate. Like I'm going to do what I'm here to do. And I mea culpa, so sorry.
Yeah.
This is part of the lesson, right? I mean, why in the world would my soul decide to embody in this body with like this little tiny little sniff of Cherokee, right? Like literally a sniff, but like make that the center of my whole world. I can't turn away from it. Like it's in my heart.
And isn't there something, I wonder, this is a question for you, like being in the white experience, like as you're growing up and becoming, what I find, like I said, I'm often been like the only Black person in white spaces, in white communities, right? These tight circles. I don't have a desire to learn from other cultures, really. And I know when we went to Mexico, it was like a lot of my friends and people from LA there, they were with the grandmothers and I just look at that as, is that people in white bodies trying to reclaim, or like if there is something in their lineage that's connected to that lineage or whatever desire. And even in that brings up the supremacy racism conversation, because the fact that it's so many of you moving into those spaces, like what is it that exactly that you're doing? Not that we're not in them, we're starting to trickle in, but there is something, again, when I said supremacy, it takes so much. It is forever eating. It's gluttonous in the way that it takes, it's vampiric. And so what it has taken, like you said, when we opened, you shared everything that it has taken from the community. And I think that's what people in white bodies need to see. What is it that we're seeking and searching, whether it is going back to lineage? And I do think that that's important to go back to your lineages and opt out of whiteness for sure. And really look at that as this is the supremacy conversation. It is also about the harm done to other people, but what about the harm that it is doing to us? That's my evolution of my work. It wasn't that. There's a time for everything. And this is what I feel like the new era looks like, because we're moving to the new earth and to the unity, but we have to embody that. And so we cannot skip this piece of how is supremacy harming white people, white bodies.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'll give an answer to it because I think it's important, is that in the space of medicine work, the benefit of working with an unbroken line of indigenous medicine is that they remember who we are and they remember how to talk to the plants. They remember how to work with the animals. They remember how to do healing through the plants and through the ceremony. They remember that. It's part of their life. They never forgot it. It's maintained. And these particular, not all lineages are unbroken, and the ones I'm working with, they're unbroken. And that's the medicine of those lineages. And so in the experience of being a white-bodied person, we have been severed from that wisdom. And that wisdom is passed down ancestrally from generation to generation to generation to generation. And we have been severed from it. So it's really difficult to get it from our own ancestry because we lost all the training. We lost all the generational instruction. So what we're doing is we're like stepchildren. So that's what I look at myself as, a stepchild. And I'll have my family and the Shipipo say, this is your home too. This is your home. You're a part of our family. And because I'm a medicine person, there's like medicine people helping other medicine people to get connected back on the ground fast, because we have a whole fucking world waking up. And we're the ones who are here to facilitate that transformation, right? Yes. So as part of that, there is ancestral memory that comes back to me now after years of doing this. There's ancestral memory that is getting reconnected. I've talked about this in my books. I've had direct connection with 7 generations back, my grandfather, who was a medicine person. That is coming back to me, but it's taking, it's like I've been at this for 14 years, and only in the last few years has it really started coming connected. So they're giving us templates to get started with, and they're holding space for us to get reconnected, embodied, so that we remember. And so when you're doing it like that, then it's an awakening. The goal is not to just replicate and be them. That's not the goal. They're here to facilitate as a launching pad so that we remember our embodied roots. So that's the goal. But it takes whatever time it takes for that to wake up. Right. So in the process, they're there holding space, and they know that's their role, and they're very happy to be in service. That's their Mother Earth is calling them to
do that
space. So beings. And I feel in that way it's quite harmonic. There isn't any feeling of taking from them. There is a feeling of just an exchange of, our resources for their knowledge and their wisdom and their holding to help us. And it seems very reciprocal. It feels like Aini to them as well as to us from what we've heard. So it feels like that's in right relationship. What I would say is my first initiatory experience in this medicine path was with a group that was not backed by an unbroken lineage. It was a white guy who started the circle and had some experience with trauma healing and things like that, and just decided to start a drum circle and bring everybody in. And while it was a beautiful beginning, it lacked so much potency because it's coming from a disconnected space. It's held in a way that's in the now for sure, but like what I was really seeking was the depth of the wisdom. And although there were experiences had in that circle that were powerful, ultimately working with these longer lineages that are unbroken is what has helped me to wake up more, faster, higher, stronger. So that's why I've made the conclusion that this is my path for certain, and how I'm holding space for others is to have this. I call in the guides of those lineages every single day, the ancestors. I'm asking for their help to help us rebuild community in right relationship with Mother Earth. Their ancestors hold unbroken wisdom in this. And so that's why I'm calling it in. And I'm also calling in my ancestors before colonization that knew the way. And I'm calling that in. But because there's a big gap, it's harder to
Yeah.
bring it
It's a lot of
forward.
repair work, right?
Right. Exactly. And
Mhm.
also not judging and blaming my ancestors that were caught up in this either. But like, gosh, that was an experience. What do we do now with all that?
And you said because it's an unbroken lineage and because of colonization and supremacy, like there's a broken lineage and you can't receive that. That's why white people, is what we're talking about, are in these spaces. And so my question comes with what do you do with the brokenness? I think that is what is impeding the desire for right relationship, is to do the work in Peru and with these other lineages. And there still isn't a depth of what has happened through colonization and supremacy. And that work just isn't here. I think that's what this conversation is all about. I keep coming back to that. That I feel like is what was not seen. It's just time for us to see this now. This conversation wouldn't have happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because we've had conversations. So with that, right, it's that, because if you can say like, okay, in my lineage or our lineage, speaking of the white community, there's all these things that has happened. And then I have to ask those that are spiritual seers or in that spiritual and conscious walk, and then what do you do with that? How is that not a part of your medicine bag and your work and, what you're offering? How is that not showing up in the sacred limbs of what it is you're sharing and how you're showing up and how, not you, specifically, right?
So there's stuff coming through.
Okay. Yeah. So that is to me what moves us into right relationship, because it starts to then kind of move out into the field, and all of us start to feel more like a family, because we're like, okay, they're doing the work over there. You know what I'm saying? It's
yeah. And I think the answer is that there's so much happening in the body outside the mind's perceptual ability to understand it. But the experience of opening the space every day, and everybody in the community is opening directions and welcoming this guidance every single day. Mm-hmm. And so the experience is that in an embodied way, there's times when it's very dense and very heavy, and there's stuff clearing and moving through. There's emotion coming through. There's some more openings that are constantly happening. And then, of course, we're sparking conversations like this one. And so as we're having these conversations, it's like opening up more awareness and more depth. And then the body is processing, transmuting, clearing, healing the things that just got activated. And so it's oftentimes, as I know, as you know, because you're also allowing it to move through you, like there's words that come through or conversations that come through that activate things I didn't even know in my mind needed to be activated.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think it's the inner medicine is the moving through of all of those experiences and conversations, transmutations, alchemy that's happening in the body. That is the medicine. And it does put you more in your body.
Okay.
More embodied. And then things will open up. Like my whole exploration of my natural father's ancestral line, right? Like all of a sudden now that's open to me because I'm ready to work on that, right? I'm ready to embrace that.
To look at it.
I'm ready to look at it. I'm ready to receive it. They've been out, they've been there, but I haven't let them in the inner circle of the medicine I was creating because of, traumas and things. And so I was like, yeah, they can stay here, but on the outside, I'll acknowledge their presence. I'll blow them the tobacco, but I'm not letting them in. But now it's like I've started working on the family tree. So automatically that's activating that. Even though I'm just doing it in Ancestry on a computer, is activating those connections. And I think that's the answer. We've got to be willing to reconnect the totality of our ancestry, which means all the things that they did, said, whatever, that in today's lens we might really hate or not want to own, want to embrace, and to be willing to bring it all in and be with it. And that's the next level of the deepening of the healing that you're talking about.
It is. It really is. It's the shift I think we all want to see, is seeing people step into this work and the supremacy work with more of a I'm coming instead I'm being pulled here, right? How can we...
I'm being forced to look at this.
Right, being forced, right?
Like, I've got my eyes, and I can't look away. I mean, I think a lot of people feel that way,
Yeah, I think so too.
That's why there's like no woke, that whole no woke thing. Just like, I found it so funny, Curtrice, because I was like, the words itself is like, no woke, no wake up, no, I don't want to. No,
Right. It lets you know that whoever says it wants you sleep. Yeah.
I want to sleep. I don't want, no, I want to go.
And sleep is darkness and unconsciousness.
Yeah.
You're unconscious when you sleep.
We don't want to, but the rest of us are like, no, we're done with that.
Yeah. So that is, if anyone is like, how do we shift? How's there healing collectively for resentments and rage and all those things? It will be, those leadership like yourself that are in white bodies that are able to integrate the work in a graceful way and mindful way, but nonetheless really empowering people to know that this is an opportunity and that it is for themselves as well as the other. And it's for this collective shift that we're in. And you must be a badass if you chose the body that you're in. Like, come on now. I always would say that spiritually, like, if you chose to be white, you didn't choose that to be quiet, did you? You came here to play ball. In terms of reclamation, yeah you came here to, you chose it.
Like, please, I think the benefit of and hopefully everybody, you have witnessed this through the conversation. Please just take a moment and recognize the space that Curtrice just held through this whole conversation. Just take a moment and notice all the energy that was transmuting through her vessel and through her conscious listening to her higher power. Because I hope you guys noticed that. And if you didn't, you need to watch it back. Because that is mastery that you're exhibiting, being able to be fully in your own body, your own heart, your own experience, then open yourself to the higher consciousness to allow everything to flow through. And then while I'm speaking from the body that I'm in, that's activating the body that you're in, you're like breathing, releasing, holding space for all of that. That's tremendous. And the benefit of having these conversations from, I don't even want to say opposing, but, like different perspectives, different bodies.
Different body. Mm-hmm.
Is that we can activate so much more that then can be transmuted and alchemized. So if you don't have somebody in your life that's holding this kind of space for you that has a different perspective, because a different perspective helps you see yourself better in the different angles. And that's what you're doing. That's what you did today for me and for whatever I was channeling through for the collective.
Yes.
You were holding that space. And so I'm so grateful for you and for everything that came through.
You.
What a badass you are. Dang.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I received that. I have someone sent a testimony and said that it was an alchemical experience in one of my classes. And she spoke to how important or how catalytic it is to be with people with different lived experience, to be in diverse containers, and just how powerful that is. I just read that maybe like 3 days ago. Oh, and you just said it. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just witnessed it. And if you missed it, like I said, go back, watch it again. Or watch the other two conversations. But these are not just conversations, everyone. These are alchemical healings.
Yeah. I feel different just sitting here right now.
Me too. For us, we'll receive our own bits for ourselves, because why not fill up our own cups? But also we know that we're here for something bigger. I appreciate you so much. And I know that your new program is all about embodying unity. Did you want to say a little bit more? I mean, this whole conversation has been exactly that conversation. But if you wanted to nutshell it for everyone so that they could grasp it in their minds.
Yes. And what I'll also share a little link with you if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah.
That they could get on the wait list for the Institute, and we'll be holding Embodied Unity circles with that as well. But it is exactly what we're sharing today in terms of moving through the shadow with a lot of grace, but really deepening into that, going to the depths so that we can reclaim our empowerment around this conversation. And it's a multi-practitioner space as well. So it'll have some somatic pieces as we move through them as well. Because just like we just experienced it, it's good to stop and shake and breathe and move, and move all those things through. So it's going to be a beautiful container that I'm holding for those in white bodies, that I'm collectively holding, because I'm no longer holding just for people in white bodies, but I'm in a really beautiful collective space with some other practitioners. And yeah, we have an offering. So I'll send you that link and you guys can learn about it. Yes, yes.
And I'm happy to share that. And What a powerful, I knew it was going to be powerful because it always is anytime we have a conversation. And I'm always so grateful. And I am right now. I know I'm going to go drink a big glass of water and have
Me too. I'm
cell salts because we just moved a ton of energy.
We did. It was a clearing. People I feel it.
Yeah. And anybody who's listening, you're helping us with that. So thank you. Drink some water.
Thank you.
Some cell salts. Okay. So I'm going to go now, but I'm just going to invite everyone, please like, share, subscribe, share this out with anyone that you think would gain so much healing and expansion from listening to this, and also would be interested to be part of Curtrice's community and check out what she's doing and be part of this mastery that's unfolding. And yes, so grateful for this woman right here. And maybe you guys know why now. And we're going to give you guys kisses. So here come the kisses, everybody. And thank you for staying to the very end to get those kisses. Love you all so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are. Yeah. Yeah.